طيب, we have questions. They give you the quadratic. This is a quadratic equation because it has power 2. فthey're gonna give you sometimes في questions from it in the 2.2 quiz. They're gonna tell you change this quadratic equation to a form called canonical form. Canonical form. You can call it canonical form, other people call it vertex form. Well, this form is the one that we're all familiar with, which is ax minus h squared plus k. Okay, this is what we call the canonical form. So this standard form, they want you to change the standard form into the canonical form or the vertex form or whatever you want to call it, which is ax minus h squared plus k. To do this, we have a few steps you have to follow. Okay, uh, I will walk through them one by one. Okay, so the first thing is you have to, let's call this A, let's call this B, and let's call this C. Okay, the first thing you're gonna have to do is isolate A and B, A and B. Okay, and leave C alone. Okay, leave C alone. Okay, what do I mean? So let's isolate A and B. So we're gonna keep these two together, and we're gonna leave this minus 28, which is the C, outside. We're gonna keep it alone. So you're gonna do 5x squared minus 40x, and then you're gonna have, yeah, 5x squared minus 40x, and then you're gonna have this minus 28 over here. Okay, that's the first thing. The second thing you're gonna want to do is factor out the coefficient of x squared, which in this case is 5. So you want to take 5 out, but we're talking about a and b only. So we're not going to touch this minus 28. We're not going to take the 5 out of minus 28. We don't want it. We don't need it. We're not going to use it. So how are you going to do it? You're going to do 5 out, x squared minus 8. And we still have the minus 28 outside. Okay, at this point, we're getting there. Ax minus h squared plus k. Well, we're getting there, yani slowly. It's 8x, sorry. Okay, but one thing we're missing is that we have two x's here. Okay, so we're gonna find a way that we're gonna be able to factor this x out. So here's how we do it. This is step 3 and step 3. This is the hard part. Okay, this is the part where most people get confused. Okay, step 3 here. أول شيء you divide coefficient of x, this time x. Here we used x squared. Coefficient of x squared, which was 5. Now we're going to use the coefficient of x by 2, which is, in this case, the coefficient of x is 8. After we divide by 2, you're going to add the square and subtract the square. Okay, so let's do this. So we have 5x squared minus 8x, and then minus 28 outside. Okay, remember, for now, we're only talking about this A, B part. We don't want C, we're keeping C outside. Okay, so how are we going to do this? You're going to expand my brackets, okay? X squared minus 8x. I'm going to expand my bracket. I'm not going to close it. I'm going to divide the coefficient of x, which is 8, okay? I'm going to divide that 8 by how much? By 2. So 8 over 2, which is 4. Okay, now, okay, what do I do with this? We're going to add the square and we're going to subtract the square. Okay, so you're going to do plus the square of 4, which is 4 squared, and then you're going to do minus 4 squared again. Okay, then you close your brackets and you have that minus 28, which is still outside. Okay, but you're going to ask them, what's the point of putting plus 4 squared and then subtracting minus 4 squared? Don't they just cancel out? Yes, they do cancel out. But that's the thing in math. When you want to add anything to an equation, you must make sure that you add it and subtract it too, because you can't just add any number to the equation. You have to make sure they cancel out. That's why you have to always make sure that you have plus 4 squared minus 4 squared, or whatever number you're dealing with. Might be 3 squared, might be 6 squared, might be 7 squared, whatever it is. Make sure you have plus the square and then subtract the square directly after. Okay, now let's clean this up a bit. Okay, this is turned into 5x squared minus 8x plus 4 squared, which is 16, minus 4 squared again, which is 16. You have this minus 28 out. Type, okay. Now the step here, which is step 4. Okay, factor the insides. Okay, factor the inside. So أنا أنت when you we took this before when we had x squared plus 6x plus 9. They would ask you factor. Yeah, some people would do which two numbers when you multiply them you get 9, and then the sum of them is 6, uh, which is 3 and 3. Okay, so that's what some people do. But we were also taught a method which is called the square method. Yeah, which you would square root the first number and you square root the last number, and you can directly get x plus 3 squared. X plus 3 squared is this, by the way. So when you have the square and the square, because you know 9 is 3 squared. Okay, when you have two squares here and here, you can just take the square root of the first one, square root of the second one, and take the sign in the middle, and then put the square outside. So that's what you're going to do here. When I say factor the insides, at this step, you must have squares. If you don't have squares, then you're solving wrong. Okay? How do I factor the insides? I'll take the square of the first number and the square of this number. You don't touch the minus 16. You don't touch it for now. Okay? We only want to factor these three numbers. Okay? So take the first square, which is x. Take the sign in the middle, which is minus, and then take the square root of 16, which is 4. And you have that square outside. Don't forget we have this 5 here, okay? And you have this minus 28 here. But we're missing one step. We're missing one thing. We factored this red part, but they're still missing this minus 16. So, okay, since we got rid of this, you can just take minus 16 out, okay? Except here, you can't do that. You're not allowed to do that. Because when I have this 5, it's 5 into everything inside these brackets, right? So you have to multiply this minus 16 by 5 before you take it outside. So before I take this minus 16 out, I have to multiply it by 5. 5 times minus 16 is minus 80. So now I can take this minus 80 out here. So it's going to be minus 80 minus 28. Continue solving, you get 5x minus 4 squared. Minus 80 minus 28, you can simplify it, it's minus 108. This is your answer, okay? This is what we call completing the square. Okay, completing the square because you're adding squares and subtracting squares. Okay, I'll zoom out so like you can see it. Oh, that's too much. Yeah, like this. What's more? Oh, oh, that's not working. Anyway, you can whatever this is. Okay, so thank you for watching, I guess.